the fuck
is that?
Okay, I know we keep ragging on the names, but Tornado Tonion? What even is a Tonion?
I thought this was a Mega Man game, not VeggieTales. Shut up! At least your name makes sense.
Can you hear me, Axel?
Wow.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Oh wow. You guys just gave up on this one, didn't you?
The idea of this place is basic. Too basic. You walk forward on an upward spiral of a ramp and occasionally jump over gaps in the ramp. Oh, and there's also a lot of bat enemies and a giant tank spider thing trying to impale you with missiles. Wait.
I remember how weird the Reploid placement was on the previous levels? Well, this one takes the cake. There are a couple you need to jump or double jump to reach, but most of them are just sitting there, completely out of harm's way, waiting for you to pick them up and send them home. I mean, just look at this. 3 in a row, just sitting there.
Plus, they're all girls. Well, femme Reploids, so make of that what you will.
After the first section, here's a mini-boss fight with that tank thing called the Yakodari, which for the most part kinda makes sense for being a 3D boss fight. You walk around a platform, dodge explosions, and jump over his blades when he turns his head and body into them. Okay.
Well, the game's already sent physics down the gutter. Why stop now?
Well, that fight doesn't last long. Back to the silly spiral stairway nonsense, this time with gaps that can potentially drop you down a level.
Plus, it's no surprise that as far as item collection goes, you're required to take that drop and put yourself through the same bat swarms and guillotine satellites that you just managed to go around. Which is pretty much the only way to die in this level.
Eventually, though, your spiral journey up the tower comes to the tippy top of it all, and the one waiting for you is none other than this guy.
Welcome to my silly stage! Here goes nothing, yeah!
Okay, who let Charles Martinet into the wine cellar and locked him there for an hour?
Axel, you grow up handsome boy, yeah? But I grow up handsomer boy!
So, tornado plus ton plus onion equals...
Welcome to my silly stage! Around and around!
I feel like I should be offended for pretty much everyone and everything, probably.
To everyone watching, I just want you to take a look at what's on screen right now and ask yourselves, truly question your inner beings. Is what I see in front of me a threat? If you answered yes, then I've reserved your cell in Arkham Asylum.
Surprise, surprise, Tonion is absolutely pathetic. You can get through his first phase in just 2 attacks from 0. After that, it's pretty much smooth sailing, as you can just keep knocking his health down with Axel's stock weapon. The only difficult part I had with this fight was adjusting the camera constantly, but besides that, this guy was fucking nothing.
What? Not funny? But I tried so hard!
Sure you do.
Today I'm going to show you several different ways to
Slice and dice!
But you know the really sad thing about this guy? Other than the voice, the pathetic fight, the lazy stage and all that? He's the only Maverick who gives a half-decent chunk of exposition in this entire game. The only one! Approach him as X and you'll hear this dialogue.
I ask you a favor, yes? Stop us! Stop Red, please, yeah?
What? No.
Shh! This is important!
It's Professor! Professor redesigned us! Oh, we no longer...
Professor? Who the heck is that?
We no control, yeah? Can't stop none of us! Please, please save us! We becoming something else!
Alright, I'll bite. What's this building up to?
Well, first, let's recap. Previously in Megaman X7, a tool turned traitor, Axel was taken in by Red Alert, only to be their shape-shifting weapon. But shouldn't he be that anyway?
Axel has a unique copy shot ability. However, he has no idea where it came from. Could it be amnesia, or did the writers simply forget to make a backstory?
Mania makes Mavericks. Red Alert changes their ways from good to evil. Did this come out of nowhere, or is there suddenly a new enemy in the fold?
Let's find out soon enough. Same bad game, same bad story.
So what has our good pal Red been up to all this time?
You're something else.
Who goes there? Show yourself!
Don't you find the Maverick Hunters to be a bit too much of a nuisance?
Well, gee, I wonder who that could be. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that it's not Sigma.
Of course not. Do you hear that voice? It's clearly a yeah. Yep, definitely a yeah.
Maverick hunters? Well, sure. I don't like them, but they've got nothing to do with us. We'll do as we please, hunters or no. Get lost. I don't even know who the heck you are.
Me?
Okay. Who's the editor on this script? Red is one of the most self-contradicting villains I've ever seen. And when does this take place, anyway? If you've even beaten one Maverick he unleashed, Red would have no basis to say that the Hunters have nothing to do with them.
If that's not enough for you, listen to this.
You mean Axel's imitator ability? Yeah. I have no idea how he does it, but it's our secret weapon. Without him, we wouldn't work half as fast.
Did Red just kind of forget that Axel wasn't on his side anymore? Does he just have a really shit memory? The only real explanation we could think of is that the Red and Professor cutscenes take place before the main events of the game. But even then, there's nothing in any of these cutscenes to indicate any particular time frame.
And even if we assume that's when it did happen, there would be several major breaches of character to the point where it feels like an event comic without any communication between writers.
And then there's the Professor himself, who we're just gonna call Sigma, because for crying out loud, the game does a terrible job of hiding it.
Remember how in the past the Sigma virus was what possessed Reploids and caused them to go Maverick? Remember how they believed their loyalty to Sigma was natural, but in reality was just a subtlety of his control? Well, there's a scene where Sigma is standing with all 8 Mavericks here as if he's controlling their every move like puppets. That's what he does for boss rematches, which doesn't happen until over halfway through the game.
However, if we were to assume that each of the Mavericks have been possessed throughout the entire game, this weird Sigma brainwashing is pretty fucking inconsistent. The dialogue with Tornado Tonion seems to suggest that he physically can't control himself, but then almost every other boss we've talked about up until this point seems totally fine. In fact, they're clearly acting on their own volition, so maybe this was their motivation the whole time, and Sigma's just taking credit for stuff he didn't even do.
The writing for Sigma would suggest that he's in control of everything, and that the only reason anyone is attacking the Maverick Hunters at all is because he's pulling their strings. Not only is this seriously unlikely, not only is there little that alludes to it in the entire game, but with the exception of that one Tornado Tonion line and something we'll get to later, there's no way he could be. Your story is a fail, game! A complete and utter fail!
So now that the plot has already pretty much derailed its own stupid duel concept, let's go back to following that stupid duel concept.
Hooray!
Thank you!
That's a flying fish, not a fly. No one calls flying fish flies, or flyers, or anything like that, ever. It's like calling a parking lot a park, or a water slide water. Life doesn't really work that way.
Let's prioritize on the level, shall we?
I'm getting to it. Warfly's level takes place on a battleship of sorts, and the level is almost entirely in 3D. It's a decently inspired concept, and while it's surprisingly not one of the harder stages, it highlights every single flaw of the 3D gameplay itself, even more than Crowrang's stage. And I do mean every single flaw. The sluggishness, the depth perception, the messed up lock-on system, and the enemies you can simply walk around instead of having to acknowledge their existence.
In addition to having such wonderful displays of mediocrity, this place has the most forced nostalgia to the first X title in the entire game. From the various mentors, to the mega tortoises, to the gunvolts, that's not even close, to the triple dragon mini-boss fight that has nothing to do with the way it used to work as a mini-boss fight. Migraine.
We get the gist. It's everywhere, and it's annoying.
The Reploids are scattered as ridiculously as usual, and you either have to double jump or plain old walk to get most of them. But while you're too busy walking around things to find other things, you run into not 1, not 2, but 3 mini-boss fights. The first one's a spinning plane you have to shoot that's 2 steps away from the Egg Eagle. The second one's the aforementioned triple dragon blasters that go down in a few seconds from Volt Tornado. And the third one is...
Fortress Maximus meets Kaizoku Sentai Gokaiger.
At least it's not from Michael Bay.
After beating each mini-boss, the ship seems to catch fire more and more, which again is a cool concept in theory, even if it's kinda nonsensical and still a pain to get around. Also, just because the ship is on fire doesn't mean having fire dragons suddenly makes sense.
You get a 2D section after the giant transformer, but it's short and pointless. Almost as if they put it in because they wanted to include at least one gunvolt doing what it did in X1. Whoopee. And then, at last, the boss.
Rusted old machines should stay home and play with their toasters. Take this!
Well, at least they were trying with that one.
Prepare to feel pain. I hated you from the very beginning.
You know what? I like this guy. I feel I can relate to him.
Your battleship lies at the bottom of the sea. Don't you think it's about time you made your escape?
Idiots! This is all according to plan.
What?
Yes, there was a little collateral damage. Probably not important. My plan is great.
Thankfully, this ever-so-charming character is matched with a totally mediocre boss fight. Excellent, I love it. But really, Splash Warfly is probably one of the better fights in the game, but it's still kind of a weird one to explain. Most of his attacks involve lunging at you with his Naginata, but then he also jumps in the water because... reasons.
He'll also occasionally shoot at you with his splash laser, and in the second half of the fight he throws homing missiles at you. One of his attacks, though, is pretty unpredictable. It's when he spins around his Naginata, yells, "Not a scratch!" and becomes invincible. Which, if you're using the Raijin Show, which is much more reliable than the Volt Tornado, by the way, can get you hurt by contact alone.
I can't say Splash Warfly is good in any regard, but it's not really unbearable either. If anything, he's just sort of annoying.
Later!
Oh, okay. See ya.
Over here!
Oh, hey, you're back!
Later!
Oh, okay. Bye again.
Over here!
Welcome back, Warfly.
Later!
Goodbye, Warfly.
Hey, Ben.
Hey.
See ya.
Oh, look, it's Warfly!
Enough! Ugh, we get it! Let's just finish this. He gives Zero his Naginata and the projectile fighters his splash laser, which is basically a water gun. There. Done. Now can we please move on to the last one? Was it something I said?
Mork, you do realize who the only one left is, right?
Oh no!
Holy fuck!
Don't make me do this! I don't wanna! I really don't wanna!
Well, it had to happen sooner or later.
No!
Snap out of this, Morkez. It's the last one. What could even be so bad about it?
What could be so bad? What could be so bad? Dude, you have no idea what you're in for. Escape with me, Wambu, before it's too... late. Let's get it over with.
Ah, come on, Mork. At least the level isn't that bad. There's a lot of poison shooting guys that are easy as hell to outrange, but at least the fire dragons kind of make sense this time.
This isn't what I'm afraid of, Wambu. And yeah, I know the arm parts are here and they do the same as usual, which I'll detail after this level is gone forever.
So, what, is it this 3D section of the level you're worried about? I mean, this is pretty freaking bad, but at least it's kind of easy to get through.
If it's so easy, just try and get through a Zero. Oh wait, you can't. This is specifically designed to test your limits as either Axel or X with the leg parts. And thanks to horrible camera and depth perception, it's easy to dive into the lava as it is to jump.
Okay, yeah, this is pretty terrible, but at least it can't get much worse. Okay, you all know what's coming. You all know exactly what's coming, and we can't make any more jokes about it.
You have all heard of this guy before, and you all hate what he sounds like. So we're gonna be playing something over all the footage of him for both our sanity and yours. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else, Flame Hyenard.
So burn it down! Burn it down! So burn it down!
Despite my playing coy earlier, I can't pretend like I didn't know about this infamous battle. A lot of other fights may highlight the many flaws of X7, but this one emphasizes a much more unique issue. Namely, its terrible fucking sound engineering.
Well, it's true Hyenard is far from the only fight with this issue. He still suffers the worst of it. Just listen to 3 seconds of his footage. Just 3. And see what you think of it. There! 3 seconds! That's all it takes to show you what the entire match sounds like. No, seriously, the entire match. I mean, it's ridiculous. Could you imagine if we just kept interrupting each other?
Yeah, that'd just throw everyone off.
It'd be pretty damn disorienting.
Oh, extremely so.
It's completely unprofessional.
Yeah, they really fucked up. Hey, what did we just tell you about interrupting?
So rude.
I know, right? And then there's the fight itself, which is, well, just look at it. There's a giant gazelle mech, clones of Hyenard running around, rings of fire, giant missiles. It's a mess. It's a complete and utter mess.
And yet he's the only Maverick in the entire game who gives a sensible reason for fighting us. It's a stupid one, but it works.
Oh, it's you that's causing my suffering. Then if I tear you to pieces, the pain will stop.
Congrats, Flame Hyenard, you get our award for least pointless boss fight in the entire game. Now, if only that said boss fight wasn't a shitty game of Ring Around the Rosie with 3 dying hyenas all shouting at once.
But Wambu, you could also play a game of Dodge Missile on the Robo-Gazelle's neck. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, no, that's not much better.
Wanna bet?
Nah, I think I'll go right ahead and kill him.
Good plan.
Now that he's gone, we get his weapon, which deserves to be called Explosion more than the actual explosion, but instead it's called Circle Blaze because running out of names. And for those of you who got X, here's Morkez with all the weapons and their crappy charge shots.
Moving Wheel and Sniper Missile each get 3 of themselves fired in a row in different directions. Gaia Shield becomes a meteor that splits down the middle. Circle Blaze just sparks more Circle Blazes on impact. Explosion covers all 6 directions with the same power. Wind Cutter goes in a full spread of homing boomerangs that are next to useless. Splash Laser is literally Bubble Beam, and Volt Tornado becomes a particle shield that may explode into recovery items upon various impacts.
And they all suck.
So that's it, right? All the Mavericks are dead, even though they were apparently Axel's friends.
Just stop thinking about the story, it's really not worth it. Anyway, let's move on with the story.
Okay, everybody. That's point RD-1866, the location of Red Alert's base. But why has it suddenly shown up on our radar screens? It's as if they wanted us to find it.
It's a trap!
Okay, everybody, let's go. Let's get this fight over and done with.
And finally, X shows some sense.
Now that's the X I used to know.
I don't want to fight, but we must hurry. I can't allow them to claim any more victims.
Never mind, he's still talking bullshit.
I almost liked him for a second. Oh wait, no, I didn't.
Yeah. Just hold out a little more, Red. I'll be there to put an end to this.
I thought Red was still your enemy. Does Axel somehow know that Sigma is behind it?
Maybe he spent the whole game all, huh? What up with Red? And is suddenly, I remember, evil guy takeover. Must save him. Consistency, what's that?
Regardless, it's now time to take on the Crimson Palace. Get it? Because Red Alert? Starting with the entryway called Palace Road. Also real subtle.
And what better way for a new enemy to greet heroic intruders than with a complete ripoff of the Mole Borer from Armored Armadillo's stage in Game 1? Oh, I don't know. Something original!
So this level involves trying to run away from a giant tank of death as it tries to run you over. In a moment of strong inspiration, however, the designers decided that the focus of the camera should be on the tank instead of what's right in front of you.
If that weren't annoying enough, remember how the Mole Borer would end up driving itself into a pit of death if you didn't kill it first? Not the case here. Not only is it invincible entirely, but it can also drive over every gap. This isn't F-Zero, tanks can't just do that!
You may have also noticed that there is quite clearly gaps next to the tank that you could clearly walk past, but trying to do so results in the tank suddenly spinning around like it's on a trail of Mario Kart banana peels. At times like these, I have to wonder what choices in my life brought me to this moment.
Eventually, you do get to fight it head-on with the weakness of whatever the hell works. This fight with the nonsensical Mole Borer is honestly pretty simple. Its attacks do a pretty sizable chunk of damage, but aren't all that hard to avoid. If you don't get hit too much, Volt Tornado or the explosion weapons can both finish it off pretty quickly, which pretty much goes for everything that doesn't have a weakness at all. Though if you do end up dying, you'll have to repeat that entire tedious chase section all over again!
Hey Mork, guess what? We've reached the final level. It's almost over.
Oh, thank God, this couldn't have come soon enough.
Well, there's no cutscene. That's a good sign.
Instead, the level itself can piss us off. As the final level, you would think it would test your skills with the game up until this point.
The designer's idea of testing your skill, however, appears to be brainlessly rehashing enemies and assets from other levels, aka the thing the game has been doing the whole time.
The next boss fight is against a familiar face, Red, and to make many long stories short, it's entirely pointless. Red, who is clearly not possessed at all, and Axel, who is here even if you left him behind, both agree that they're on the same side, and then Red says this.
Well, I know you didn't come here just to talk. Shall we get things started?
Yeah, I know, fighting would be totally pointless, but you know, we went through all this trouble, so we might as well do it anyway, right?
I hate to quote X, but stop it! There is no reason to fight here!
Too late, it's already started, and boy is this fight a doozy.
To sum up my reaction to this fight, I hate this fight! I hate it, I hate it, I hate it! Burn to the ground, Red! Burn to the ground! Ah!
A reaction most befitting. He's seriously not exaggerating, folks. This fight is genuinely awful. For one, it's fought on a series of small platforms, which does not fit X7's gameplay at all, since accidentally dashing at the wrong time can result in an instant death.
What is up with this? From the teleporting, I hate this fight, to the side-swinging clothes, I hate this fight, to the slashing in the air, I hate this fight, to the tornadoes that should be where his Achilles heel is, but instead makes him untouchable, I really hate this fight! It's so stupid! I just want this fight to die!
Better be careful what you wish for, Mork, because I'm not kidding here. Landing the final blow on him while you're not on a platform will cause you to fall into the pit and die. That's right, winning the fight can result in a game over.
No, not the pit! It burns! Let's just move on.
I'm done. Good job.
So let's say you do beat Red. What happens? Does he join your side? Does Axel decide to finally kill him? Does he sacrifice himself to delay Sigma in any way?
I set it to self-destruct.
Or he could blow everybody up like a moron.
Really? Why did you do that? What possible benefit could this have for anyone? We already know Sigma is elsewhere just by common sense. And it's not like there's any secret underground bunker, because by the look of things, we're already in that bunker when he blows it up!
in case of an emergency.
Why though?
No! Red, you're coming with us!
And of course, Axel delivers his lines with the raw emotion of a baby getting their candy stolen.
Axel, he's right. It's my time. Let me go first. You're still young. No need to rush.
You idiot! What are we missing, Red? Why do you need to do this?
Yeah, no need to rush. It's not like I set the place to blow up not even 5 seconds ago. I guess this is keeping in with Red's shitty memory.
So with the pointless and very much not noble sacrifice aside, it's finally time to go after Sigma. And this starts with a split path section that basically depends on if you brought Axel or not. If you did, go left and see if you can survive laser hell. X might work as well, but it's trickier. If you didn't, go right and you'll just be in some right armor close combat stuff with the projectile armor.
At this point, this game is getting kinda depressing. It's very telling when the most memorable part of your final level is the boss rush. Wait, shit, there's a boss rush.
I'll give the Reploid Graveyard this much. It makes sense. You've already destroyed the bosses, so the idea that you'd have to refight them from literally beyond the grave is pretty good. The problem is that they're spread out so ridiculously that it takes memorizing the area to get from one grave to another quickly. It took me a long time to find Stone Kong and Anteater's fights, assuming I wanted to in the first place.
I'm not gonna lie, this may be the only environment in the entire game that sort of looks like it had some effort put into the visual design. It's just too bad that it comes with the realization that you have to fight every Maverick again. Perhaps it is a poetic representation of where I will end up when this game inevitably ends up being the death of me.
The fights are basically the same as the first time around, and the healing items between rounds recover an incredible amount. At the very least, we can say that it's decently forgiving, but it's still a boss rush in Megaman X7, so it still sucks.
All right, we know you're in there, so come on out, Professor.
Axel, how do you even know about the Professor at this point? X is the one who got the info, and he's not really forthcoming.
Because all the players know it, and Axel just wants to break the fourth wall to get this game done more quickly.
Thanks for coming by, fellas. This way I can face you in the comfort of my own home.
What a surprise.
You mean Sigma was actually Sigma all along? Wow. I'm just so surprised right now.
You never give up, do you? Even when we break you down to scraps, you always come back.
It's like a metaphor for the franchise at this point.
That's right, folks. I'll do it again and again. I will make X and Zero mine. Now come and get me. Give me a good fight, like you always do.
While I eat this delicious wall of text.
To be fair, the ensuing fight might just be my favorite fight in the game.
Well, gee, that sure sounds like it's saying a lot, Mork.
Haha, real cute. But I mean it. Yeah, it's difficult, but the fight at least makes some sense. You're in 2D and you're dodging things that bounce off the walls, or you're shooting Sigma when he flies to the background. It's the only fight in the game that feels like a legitimate X-Series boss battle. It's still extremely hard unless you have X and it's a complete load either way, but it's pretty much the high point in terms of the feel of the game.
While I can understand that, I personally just found it kinda tedious. The small platforms on the ground and this overall small space made it pretty awkward to move around in. Sigma also has quite a lot of HP, and the wind boomerang, despite being his weakness, only does nuggets of damage.
That does kinda make it like a classic series fight if you think about it. Make no mistake, it's a bad fight, but it at least has some familiarity to it.
True, but from what I played of the previous games, the small spaces actually fit to the mostly solid platforming. X7's clunkiness just kinda made this a pain. Granted, it could have been a lot worse, but honestly, I was just glad when this fight was over. Or at least I was until...
Oh no, it's happening, isn't it? You guys, you're gonna want to sit down for this. I know I will.
I don't have legs.
Then you'll have to make do. What we're about to show you makes even less sense than the Flame Hyenard fight. Gonna repeat that to be clear. Even less sense than the Flame Hyenard fight. Okay. You all ready, audience? You comfortable? You all set? Good? Okay. Time to show you the biggest foster clock in the franchise.
Just play the clip.
Warning! Warning!
I take it back. Let's get it out of here.
I've already used my boss-related scream of the day, so now it's Wamboos' turn.
Today's word of the day is why. Used in multiple sentences. Why is Sigma giant now? Why does he look like he just got back from a trip to the Halloween store? Why is he firing lasers from his dick? And why are we in fucking space?
You think that's all? One of his attacks has him literally shouting, ass!
Ready for the real thing?
Seriously, how do you remove this much dignity from your main villain this quickly? If I even cared anymore, I'd be absolutely pissed. Then again, given how hard he is to beat, I'm still absolutely pissed.
I'm afraid it's another case of Red syndrome with this one. The attacks themselves aren't all that difficult to avoid, but the small platforms make maneuvering around awkward as hell. Plus, hitting him can be somewhat tricky since Sigma keeps his distance for a good chunk of the battle. Not only that, but he has a punch move that can potentially knock you off the stage and kill you instantly.
Technically, you can die before the battle even starts if you dash the wrong way. Suffice to say, this fight was difficult as hell for the both of us, and winning was different kinds of sheer luck.
I didn't have X, so I pretty much had to stay on one platform for as long as I could and spam Axel's explosion gun whenever he got close. If you're lucky, he'll hang around for a long while, giving plenty of time to rack up some good damage on him.
I, on the other hand, did have X, and I tested out every weapon and its charge version to see what would work. Sniper missile was useless, explosions range didn't help at all, but what did end up working was a charged splash laser. That's right, I pulled a Megaman 2 and bubbled Sigma to death, unintentionally.
So the giant Sigma is beaten and suddenly shrinks for the subsequent cutscene, making the fact that we were in space instead of the room they're depicting here a complete impossibility and more likely an illusion.
That's two ways the game copies the final boss of Mega Man 2.
Hey look though, Red's back. Yeah, totally. I mean, unless there's some other character in the game who just so happened to have the ability to take the forms of other Reploids.
Very nice, Red. Give me your power. It's time for revenge.
Oh, with this power, I'll never lose!
Red! Got him!
What a surprise.
I thought Axel could only copy Reploids his size. Who gives a crap? The game's almost over.
Depending on who made the finishing blow, you get one of three endings. Zero's is a nightmare, and the other two are just more of X complaining about violence and how he still doesn't want Axel to be a Maverick Hunter.
What an ungrateful asshole. He makes Cygnus here the only hero of the game because he said this.
Methods? X. Ideals are not always for the real world. Without you, somebody has to become a hunter. Why can't you train Axel to be one?
But I don't want to do things. I want to just sit around and yell at other people. Seriously? They just end the game with X being a hypocritical piece of shit? Again?
Well, I for one don't mind that because they end the freaking game. And I've got to tell ya, this one was a living nightmare.
We're not done yet though, Mork, as we've yet to see the biggest plot twist of them all. This game had playtesters. 14 of them.
Also in the credits, we get the name of the casting director. To which I say, you Nikita Deo!
Well, that seems like a good place to wrap up. Time for the So Big list. We've got awful voice acting, completely incompetent story, stupidly applied mechanics, a shitty camera, annoying and inconsistent characters, fatally flawed presentation, failed rehashing of elements from previous games, bad and lazy level design, downgrade of mechanics from previous titles, bad boss fights, and suspension of disbelief being completely abolished. So with all that said, moment of truth. Is this game so bad it's good? In many ways, I would have to say yes. A very begrudging yes. Megaman X7 is hilariously incompetent in many ways, with a story that consistently almost explains its glaring plot holes and its tremendously awkward design. It's hard not to laugh hysterically at it at points. That being said, the way it's designed so poorly makes it frustrating as hell in parts, and in the same way it's hard not to laugh, it's also hard not to pull your hair out. Some of the fights and levels were just sort of obnoxious, and not really in a particularly funny way. Honestly, if the game wasn't so weirdly forgiving, I would have failed it without question. As it stands now, though, it succeeds really well at being awful. It's funny how lazy and bad it is, but occasionally it starts to come full circle and becomes kind of exhausting. I would still recommend people try hate plays of it if they're interested, but be warned, it's one hell of a game to get through. I still enjoyed making fun of it though. Also, I can absolutely see how this game would piss off longtime fans of Mega Man, like my buddy Mork here.
My answer is a bit different. I see X7 as the perfect example of a game that is so bad it's good. Even if you wouldn't touch it again if it were the only way to save your life, which is definitely the case for me, this game is so spectacularly flawed and impotent that it's incredibly fun to hate. Every single second I played it, I was both writhing in agony and laughing in joy because I know I could have a lot of fun tearing it apart. The game gets more and more so big the more you look at it, as there are always new idiocies and problems to find. You will never be finished loving to hate this game, and that's exactly what I look for when playing a bad game. But it can still be a nightmare when it's over. As far as being a Mega Man fan is concerned, I've always found the X series to be a bit overrated compared to some of the other series, but what they do right and wrong, they really do right and wrong. And just seeing this go so spectacularly wrong made my experience all the more worthwhile.
I think in terms of a so bad it's good game, it gets an 8 out of 10. It's hilariously terrible, but at points almost trickles back into just being regular bad.
Even though there's nothing regular about it, and thank God for that.
Alrighty, well, that's it. Thanks for joining me, Mork.
No problem. So, how do you want to kill this game?
Don't worry, I've got this.
Whoa. Oh, mighty Hyenard abomination. Can you kill this game for us?
Sure. Burn! Burn in the deepest of the grounds, where you can't hurt anyone ever again!
That was a little over the top, but thanks.
No problem, my dear Morkez. It was for the good of all humanity.
Did he just call me dear?